This is Selena Yvette, host of Stories from Planet Earth. Thanks for listening to the following show on Public House Media.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to episode 5 of the Food for Thought podcast. I am your host, Kylie Thompson, and I'm really excited that you came back for another episode. I'm stoked to be here, stoked to have you. And before we get started with our episode today, I do just want to say that I'm wearing some Food for Thought merch. Our merchandise has dropped, it's gone live, and I am literally living in it all the time. I really don't go anywhere with COVID-19 going on, so I haven't worn it out too many places yet, besides the grocery store or Target. But I'm seriously living in it, guys. I live in the crew neck as well as the t-shirt, and I did order a mask as well because I'm going back to work, and I am required to wear a mask while I'm at work at Olive Garden, and I just wanted to rock a Food for Thought one. I'm really excited about it. So if any of you guys are interested in purchasing your own merchandise, I did do direct links on a link tree on all of my personal social media, as well as the Food for Thought Instagram and Facebook page. So you can check those out. Otherwise, if you just want to browse all of the merchandise we have, go to publichousemedia.org and under the menu, select stores, not shows, stores. And then you can select my show. And you can just check it out from there. We've got a little bit of everything. The phone case for me will definitely be coming soon. Some stickers. But yeah, I have the crew neck, their super soft tee, and a couple of masks on the way. So I'm really excited about it. And I can't wait to see you guys wearing some merch. So send me pictures when you order it. I want to see it. I want to see how cute you guys look in it. I'm just really excited about it. This has been a part of the podcast that I've been really excited to share, and now that it's finally here and I'm happy with the way everything looks, I'm so excited for you guys to be wearing it out. Yeah, I'm pretty sure those were all of my announcements for today, so now I'm just really excited to introduce our guest, Shanelle, today. She is just the cutest thing in the whole world. She's so sweet. She is a fellow podcaster, so she is the host of the Feeding Freedom podcast. I personally found her Instagram really inspiring, and that's how I asked her to be on the show, and then I found out she was a podcaster as well, but she has a lot of really cool insight on her own recovery process because she did not go to traditional treatment. She actually recovered on her own through social media. And I think that that is really, really great. And I think that shows how powerful social media and the internet really is at this time. So for any of you struggling right now due to COVID-19, I know I am. I'm working on an episode that will drop soon, probably next week, about my feelings on COVID-19 and combating my eating disorder. But I did feel like this was a really good episode to drop right now just because we're at a time in our lives where maybe you can't go to therapy, you can't see your therapist, maybe virtual therapy isn't something that you can afford or that you just don't want to do. There are resources out there for you, and I think that Shanelle highlighting that at this point in our lives is really, really important. So she also talks about, being married or being in a relationship while having an eating disorder, and going to school while having an eating disorder, and engaging in higher education while combating your mental health. And she just makes a lot of really great points, and she was really a treat to have on the show. So sit back, relax, and enjoy episode number 5. All right, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Food for Thought. I have Shanelle here with me today. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, perfect. I didn't ask you before we started.
No, it's
before
okay.
I hit record. All right, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. It's honestly an honor to be on this podcast. And I would just want to say that I love what you're doing and how you're using your platform as using your crown to spread awareness about eating disorders. I think that's amazing. And
oh my gosh, thank you.
Really admirable.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, let's just dive right into it. Why don't you just tell me, outside of eating disorder advocacy, tell me about yourself.
Okay. Well, what is there to know? I am 24 years old. Obviously, my name is Shanelle. I am just ordinary girl. I went to college. I graduated not too long ago in 2018. I got my degree in public health, which is one of my biggest accomplishments so far. and also getting married this past year. Or
Congratulations.
last year in August, so that was another big thing. Thank you. So I'm still adjusting to the married life, but yeah, that's pretty much everything big that's happened to me, except, let me see. I do have 2 cats and a dog.
Love it. What are their names? I have no pets, so let me live through you for a second.
Okay. Okay. So my dog's name is Rhett. He's like a German Shepherd mix, and he's just a big baby. He has like his teddy bear who he sleeps with at night, and we call it his mom.
That is so cute.
I'm obsessed with him. And then I have these 2 cats. One's like all black, and then the other one's like a tabby. She's like our newest one. And like, honestly, I've never been a cat person until I got my first cat, and I have converted to being a cat person. It's weird. I don't know. I can't explain it.
I am super allergic to cats. Like, I look like E.T. if I touch them. It makes me so sad because I love them. But I went during COVID-19, I traveled to Ohio to kind of quarantine with some friends for a little bit. And they have cats, and I just was popping Benadryl and like playing with the cats. I'm like, I need a cat. Like, it's not a want,
I know.
it's a need.
Everyone else is allergic to like my pets, and I'm like so grateful I'm not. It's like, I don't know how I would survive without having allergies. Yeah.
I'm like, I'll pop Benadryl every day to like hang out with a cat. It's not a problem.
Do you get like drowsy with that or no?
Yes. And I felt so bad because I had never traveled to Ohio. And my friends are like, let's go do this stuff. And I did it, but I was so tired. I'd be like out hiking and I'm like falling asleep. I'm like, oh my God.
Anything for the cats.
Literally anything. Oh my gosh. So now let's dive into the good stuff. So how does your eating disorder tie into all of this? When did that start for you? What was your journey like with battling an eating disorder?
Okay. So I'm sure you know, it's like a really long story. I was remembering from your podcast yesterday, your story, and just how complicated, not complicated, but there's just a lot of things going on, and I can totally relate to that too. And I feel like we have a lot of similarities. So mine started at a young age as well. I don't think as young as you, but I would say that like my body image issues started around middle school. And I think from what I recall, it's like so long ago, but from what I recall, that's like the first time I started to become like aware of my body, essentially. Like before that, I was like a happy-go-lucky kid. I didn't really think too much about my body or appearance. I was really enthusiastic about school and my friends and my family. And then I don't know, something just shifted in middle school. And I feel like it has to do with several factors, one of them being the fact that my parents actually enrolled me and my sister in a lot of beauty pageants. So we have that in common. Yeah. And so initially it was actually like those pageants that you see in Toddlers and Tiaras. I don't know if you're familiar with that show. But yeah, super weird experience. And me and my sister were kind of the odd ones out because everyone who competed were pretty much like white girls with like the typical blonde hair and everything. And me and my sister were like these 2 little Filipino girls just trying to make it, I guess. Or so my mom wanted to help us just get out there and boost our confidence. I know she had good intentions, like your family did as well. I know you mentioned that. So that was, I think, a big contributor to me becoming aware of my body and how I looked, because I was being reinforced with these messages that like image is everything. You know, if you look a certain way, you can win prizes, you can win money. And so I never actually won or made it in like the top spot in any of those pageants. And I think that kind of took a toll on me in my like adolescent years. And I mean, it wasn't, I never developed an eating disorder at that time, but I started to become a little bit more insecure, and then that carried on into high school. And I just remember being just this really insecure girl in high school, always comparing myself to the other girls. I think that's when my eating disorder started, actually was in high school. It's so hard to recall because it was kind of a long time ago. And so like preparing for this episode, I was just like, what happened? Like, where did it all start? I was like kind of having like this, like this epiphany and stuff. But so in high school, I think the biggest thing for me was social media. I think that's when I got a Tumblr account, and then I started looking at like these Fitspo like tags and stuff like that. And I don't know, I was just like, maybe I'm insecure because I don't look as thin as the girls at my school who are so-called popular, or I'm not as pretty. And I was actually really self-conscious about my face, like the roundness of my face, I guess. Like that was like the one thing I kind of hyper-focused on in high school. And I thought, oh, maybe if I just lose a little bit of weight, I could like have cheekbones and a jawline and be more confident, and like that's going to solve my problems. So long story short, I went on diet after diet in high school. And just like you, I was able to kind of hide it from everyone, just doing little things here and there, like skipping lunch because like my family wouldn't know, obviously, and just trying to like eat as minimal as possible wherever I can. And at first, like you kind of get this like euphoric feeling once you start to see your body kind of change a little bit, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is actually working. And then you get praised for that, and then people starts commenting on your looks and how you look so healthy or fit or whatever. And then that's what I guess kept me going. And I thought, you know, like, what did I look like before? Like, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a long journey to get there, but yeah.
And then what did the recovery process look like for you? When did that begin? Was it when you were in high school? Did this carry on for a lot later in your life? What did that look like?
Yeah, so my eating disorder is kind of like an on and off thing. It's not like my eating disorder lasted like a certain amount of time and stopped. I would say like I just remember having really disordered eating. And also I wasn't diagnosed at the time. I was I knew I had an eating disorder just from, you know, self-diagnosis, which I believe is still valid. But so I would consider it kind of like a binge restrict cycle when I was in high school, because I thought the only way to like lose weight was to eat less. And then obviously that kind of backfired, and then I would go on these binges and then feel super guilty. And then it was just like a big cycle. And then when I graduated high school, it was, I don't know. I think my eating was put into remission, I would say. Like I don't remember having as many issues like after graduating high school as I did during. And I think that just had to do with all like the big changes happening in my life, trying to figure out like where I was going to go to college and stuff like that, which was also like a big insecurity of mine. I think my eating disorder kind of stemmed from me wanting to be a perfectionist and like a control freak and trying to like make my parents proud and stuff like that. And my eating disorder actually affected my high school, like academically. So I went from like being like a straight A person to like really failing my classes and almost not graduating, simply because I didn't have the energy for. And so that was like my biggest issue after too, because I just felt like my parents were like disown me if I didn't go to college or something. And so that was my main focus. But fortunately I did go get into a college like last minute. I don't know if you know, it's Biola University. It's like a Christian college. Yeah. And they accepted me last minute. So I was like, okay, thank goodness. And it wasn't really a college I was setting my heart onto. Like I just kind of did it just because I didn't want to feel left out from like my friends and stuff like that. So again, another big change. And every time there's like a big change in my life, I think that just causes my eating disorder to like, what is it called?
It like kind of creeps back up on you.
Yeah, it creeps back up because it's like your source of like comfort. And even without realizing it, like it's something that you know you can control, even when like everything around you is just really chaotic. And so I found myself like using this time of going like away to a new college to try to like reinvent myself and my new identity. Like I was like, this time I'm going to be the healthy girl. I'm going to get straight A's. I'm going to graduate. I'm going to do all these things. And so that all started with me going back on a really unsustainable diet. And so obviously that didn't work out. And again, it really affected my studies in school. So I was pretty much failing everything. I was had no energy. I had like fainting spells many times from like the lack of food I was getting into my system. And so long story short, I had to drop out or withdraw completely from the college after one semester.
Wow.
And yeah. And so at that point, I really felt like a failure. Like even though I withdrew from my classes, I still had like all Fs on my report. So I had Fs from all of my classes because they couldn't like put a W on it. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, how am I going to like recover from this? But luckily, which I feel is very common with people who struggle from like mental illness, I feel like they're very resilient. And I think that's one thing that was good about me is that I was still able to like stand back up and just like when I hit rock bottom, I know like the only way to go is up. So I took this as another chance for me to like reinvent myself and find a new identity. But this time I wanted to focus solely on like my interpersonal growth, I guess, instead of like just trying to look a certain way. Because at this point, my friends from high school were gone in college. Like I didn't have to show up for anybody or prove anything to anybody. I was just home with my family. So I was like, I'm just going to like work on myself. And so I went to community college for 2 years. And again, I would say that this is when my eating disorder went into like a remission kind of mode where I didn't really have too many eating issues at that time. I was definitely still insecure about certain, parts of my body. But I was focused on another goal, which was to transfer to the university, which I eventually graduated from. And so as you know, like the cycle, once I transferred to the university, another big change. So I went back to my eating disorder, and I would say that lasted up until I graduated. That was the worst it's ever been. That's when I actually knew I had a real problem, because before then I never got like an actual diagnosis. So I didn't really think it was something serious that I had to get help from. That was like a really long intro to start my recovery process, but here we are.
It's all important. It's all important.
Yeah. So let's see. So I got to like the very lowest of my eating disorder around the end of my, my college years. And I think that's because, I was going to go through a big change, which is graduating. And again, I didn't know what I was going to do with my degree. I didn't really have any plans. And like, there was just so much expectation on me, and I felt like everything was going to spiral out of control again. And so I leaned into my eating disorder. And it was so easy to hide this time because I was gone for school all the time. I was by myself. I was commuting, so I didn't stay with anybody during those last 2 years of college. And my commute was like an hour to 2 hours long. So,
oh my gosh,
I know it's crazy, but I was determined. I was like, I'm going to save money on, housing.
Yeah. School is so expensive.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know, it's crazy. But, so yeah, I think this was just like the really darkest point of my life, where I guess I became even more of a control freak, like trying to perfect my diet, trying to perfect my body, I got into like bodybuilding kind of things where I got into the if it fits your macros diet. That one's the worst. Like it gets you, like you're like, oh wow, everything fits, but only a certain amount.
Yeah.
And then for me, that specific amount started to get lower and lower and lower. And eventually I found myself back to where I was before in my eating disorder. And I was like, it got to a point where my physical health was really deteriorating, as well as like my mental health. Because every time my eating disorder kind of sparks back up, I get really bad anxiety and depression. And so, yeah, it was just a really dark time in my life. And eventually I lost my period. And I think that was kind of like the motivating factor for me to recover, was just knowing that like, okay, something's wrong here. Like, why don't I have my period? I've always been like regular. And I'm like, okay, this can't be healthy. Even though I swore it was. It was like, I'm doing everything right. I'm eating clean. I'm exercising. Like, why am I not like healthy? And so I found myself kind of looking up answers to like why everything was happening. And I found myself always on the side of the internet where it was like about anorexia and like pro-ana sites and stuff like that. And I'm like, and then one day I just kind of put the puzzles together and I was like, maybe I have an eating disorder. Like maybe I need help. I can't keep going like this, or something really bad's going to happen to me, you know? And so at that moment, I was really driven by like this fear that I was going to die. It was like a very real fear. Even though like my physical health wasn't like so bad, I just, inside it was just, I don't know, it was like really, really scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm like thankful for that moment, because it was the moment I decided that I needed to get help. I needed to tell somebody. And so like you said in your podcast, you like came out to your family, which is important for you to like actually get help. I first opened up to my mom, because she's like the one who was closest to you. And I told her about my struggles and stuff like that. And she was very understanding, and she was kind of like blown away because she never noticed it. And like, this is always what happens to people I tell. They're like, well, I didn't even notice anything. Like, I'm so sorry I didn't help you. Like, don't worry. I was trying to hide it from you all this time anyways. Like,
Yeah.
You know?
And eating disorders, I feel like, are so sneaky. I feel like everyone that I have talked to and getting ready to launch the podcast, they've said the same thing. They're like, when I finally came out about my struggles, everyone was like, oh, I thought you were just like getting healthy.
Exactly.
And I thought you were, it's like, and I really think that is such a problem in the way of like how we all think. Like we all associate losing weight and being thin with this healthiness.
Yeah.
And it's like
diet culture.
Yes. And you just don't know that like the people around you are struggling so much.
Yeah.
It's insane to me.
Yeah. People like praise eating disorder behaviors. Like it's what you're supposed to be doing. And like, little do they know, there's people who are actually struggling. And and
there are people out there that are suffering from like actual real health consequences. Like losing your period. I feel like that's something that I never experienced. And that was a big fear of mine too. And that was something like I didn't ever want to get to that point.
Yeah.
And it was like, I found out randomly that could happen. And I felt like I was probably right on the cusp of that. And that was a big for me to like recover. I was like, well, what if I want to be a mom one day?
Oh,
like,
exactly.
Yeah. And it's you saying you had fainting spells. Like I had that too. And I missed a lot of the first semester of my senior year of high school because I was just like passing out at random points. Like I wasn't allowed to drive. I wasn't allowed to do all these things. Like, and it's just like, people don't realize that eating disorders are just as much of a toll on your physical body as it is on your mental body.
Exactly.
It's so crazy to me.
I know. And just even dieting in general, like everyone thinks dieting is like the way to health, but it could be the opposite for a lot of people. So
definitely.
I really liked how you said like you missed out on like your senior year of, did you say high school? High school, right?
Yeah.
Because like we missed out on a lot of things because of our eating disorder. Like it really just takes everything away from you. Like for me, besides like having all of like the physical consequences of like fainting spells and stuff, like I always just wanted to be alone. I wanted, like, if anybody got in the way of like my eating habits, I would just like kind of shut them out because I didn't want anybody to make me stop what I was doing because it was just too scary for me to let go of that control, you know?
Yeah, and I was trying to explain earlier today to somebody I was recording with, like what an eating disorder is like. And I was like, picture the most toxic friendship of your entire life. And like that person is just like with you all the time and telling you to do all of these bad things. And like letting go of them is hard because they're your quote unquote friend.
Yeah.
You've been with for like your whole life. But like once you let go of them, you're like, oh my God.
I know.
Like, what?
I didn't need you after all. Like life is better without you. What?
Right. And it's just something I think that relates to diet culture too. Like people feel like they need the keto diet, the whatever diet to like fit in and to like look a certain way. And it's like the minute you cut all that shit out, it's life changing.
I know, but it's so hard to get from that point. And I kind of feel for those people who are still stuck in diet culture because you're like, you have like tunnel vision. You can't really see anything else. Like you think your way is the only way, you know?
Definitely.
But I think that's why it's important to just take that leap of faith and choose the other thing. Like, you know, like nothing else has worked for you. So just might as well try recovering.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how does all of this tie into your Instagram? So I guess one thing a lot of listeners probably don't know is that I've been cold messaging like literally hundreds of people on Instagram to try and get them to be guests on the podcast. And so that's like that's how I found you. That's how I messaged you. And like, it's so cool to me to see what all these people are doing on social media in specifically Instagram.
Yeah.
And like, what made you decide to do that? That's so cool. And like, how did you get to that point?
Yeah. So, pretty much my recovery, I didn't really go into it much, but, I pretty much recovered on my own.
That's amazing.
I did. Yeah, it was hard, but it's possible. I did try to seek external help, but unfortunately, like financial circumstances, like insurance doesn't like to pay for eating disorder treatment, which is crazy expensive these days.
Yes.
Therapy alone is expensive, even though I know it's just so beneficial for a lot of people. It's just something I couldn't access at the time. I did try therapy once, but my anxiety was so high. I actually had really bad social anxiety. And so I don't think that did anything for me. So I just decided to look up, you know, people who have done it on their own. And fortunately, I was able to find some people who have shared their testimony and their story on YouTube and pretty much talked about everything I was going through in my recovery process and like all of the concerns I had before even starting. Like they kind of just helped me to become more confident in starting the recovery process.
Yeah.
So the internet was like a really big thing for me. And those few people that I found on YouTube were just so pivotal to my recovery process. Like if I didn't find them and if I didn't spend all my time watching all of their videos and being reassured about that all these bad things weren't going to happen to me, I don't know if I would have recovered on my own. And so I guess my Instagram account is just like a way for me to pay it forward, like you said, with your platform. And yeah, I don't want people to feel as alone as I did, just like yourself. Because I thought that to recover from an eating disorder, it's like rare, like it's only for certain people, like not everybody can do it or not everybody has the strength to recover. And so I just wanted to tell everyone and show everyone and encourage everyone that it is possible to recover even if without like professional help, although I do always suggest it if you can access that. And also to just have a place for people to kind of confide in their stories and just share their struggles again, so they don't feel alone, just like I did. Because I didn't really have the eating disorder recovery community was out there when I was recovering. I kind of just stumbled upon like threads on the internet and stuff, like really random websites, but that really helped me. And I might as well use Instagram as a platform to like help people overcome what I overcame. So yeah, and it has been just like the most crazy experience starting my Instagram account. Just get messages from people all the time, like telling me or asking me for like, advice on how I went through this or that. And it's just amazing to be on the other side of that and to just give them the hope that, I don't know, I just really want everybody to know that they can do it. And it's just become like this newfound passion of mine to help people overcome their eating disorder. So.
Yeah, I love that so much. I think like that's something that resonates with me so deeply. It's just like being able to respond to those messages and be like a person that you would have looked up to when you were going through that process. And I know my like recovery inspiration actually always did come from Instagram, which it makes me feel old because it was like when Instagram was becoming a thing and like, oh my gosh. And I know I'm not old, but I'm like, people don't even know that there was a time before Instagram existed. And like the content I used to follow, it's so funny because it was like before Visco filters and like all this stuff. And like, it was just like real raw people. Literally, I followed so many accounts that were like, here's what I ate today and it sucked, but I ate it and like rock on. And I was like, that's so cool. And it was like, cool. It's just something like way, way back. It would have been like 2014, 2015. I had one of those accounts and it's like not in existence anymore. Yeah. But like I would do the same thing. And it was just like this little community of people all holding each other accountable. Mm-hmm. And it's just so cool to like see that and then like to become like what you and I are doing now and like to be on the side of that. I don't know. It's such a cool like full circle moment. I feel I love being able to do that kind of stuff. Yeah. It
just makes my heart like all warm and fuzzy.
Yes. And to turn so cool. And turn it into something a little bit more lighthearted because I'm a hopeless romantic. You're married.
I am.
First of all, tell me all about him and like tell me about how like your relationship and like your marriage works with the ups and downs of you having an eating disorder. Like what's it like having a life partner and like going through this with them if that's still something that you're tackling?
Yeah. So fortunately he's been with me since college. I was 18. So we've been together for a really long time. And he's been with me through all the highs and all the lows. And so he knows, about my eating disorder. And I've always actually been able to confide in him as well. Mm-hmm. Just like my mom, like he's always been really close to me. I could tell him everything. But there came a point like during the really lowest times of my eating disorder when I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want to admit that I had a problem. And so I kept it for a secret from everyone, including him. And so he didn't really know that. And it really affected our relationship because when you're not like nourishing your body, your mental state just becomes really, really bad. And I personally, I just get really irritable and arrogant. And I was the worst person to be around, like 24/7 hangry is what I would describe it. Yeah. Yeah. I felt so bad because I would also impress like my ideas of weight loss and stuff on him. So if he wasn't doing that, then I would kind of get mad as well. And like, it was just really toxic. I was like the toxic person in the relationship, but fortunately we did get through it when I did come out to him. But that was such a scary part to finally admit that I had a problem. And he was really understanding of it. But at the same time, he knew that it was limited to what he can do. Like he did take me to like doctor's appointments and stuff like that before I told my mom about this stuff, just because I had like health scares and stuff. But there came a point where I was still having really bad eating disorder behaviors and I realized that if I wanted to recover, I had to do it for myself. And even if he's helping me like 100% or whether like my family is helping me, like I have to be the one who's committing to it. So with that said, we took kind of like a little break before we got back together. And mind you, we've been together for like 6 years. But we felt like this was the best thing for us to do so that I could focus on my recovery and focus on healing. Because I honestly felt guilty for putting him through everything. And I don't know. I just, he was kind of like a scapegoat. I don't know if I use that term correctly, but so we took a little break. That break was really, really pivotal in my recovery, because that's when I was able to focus on recovering from my eating disorder. I was able to watch all the videos from the other people who have recovered. And also I did quit my job for recovery. So I was home all the time. I was able to really do like a lot of self-reflection and work on body image and stuff like that. And so when I got to a point where I thought I was like mentally and physically stable, we started talking again, and he noticed right away like the change that happened in me. I wasn't like scary and mean as I used to be. And so he was hesitant at first because he really wanted me to be stable, for myself and for our relationship. And so he was still supporting me, even though we were still on kind of like a break. But eventually, things just started to look up from recovery. I was, fully committed to it this time, still am. And then we just kind of picked up where we left off before my eating disorder, I guess. And we just decided to get married. It was kind of a long process for us to get to that point of wanting to get married, because it was always like an issue because of the eating disorder of us getting married, because of the commitment, I guess. And I didn't want change. Like I was comfortable, and I don't know if it had to do anything with the eating disorder or not, but after recovering from my eating disorder, I feel like my commitment issues are like not nearly as bad as they were before. So I guess that had something to do with it. And we're happily married. It's almost been a year.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. And luckily I was like fully recovered when we got married. So that was just such a beautiful moment to be able to experience marriage and like a honeymoon without all of these eating disorder thoughts and like body image issues that I would have had before if I didn't recover. So that was just such a beautiful experience. And I'm so grateful that I was recovered when I got married. And I haven't had any like really serious body issues being married. Like I do have it here and there, especially like the time of the month.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's something like during like right before you get your period where I just feel like I'm not confident as I am. And
is it like
I'm
just, the week before?
I eat a lot. So yes.
Yes.
Is that the same for you? Okay.
Yes.
It's weird. And then like, I don't even realize it until I get my period. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's why.
I'm like, oh, that's why I was like,
I know.
sitting
I
in
was like,
bed with a spoon and Nutella and like crying over nothing. And, like,
I know. Oh, yeah. Oh gosh.
Well, I love that because like I said, I'm a hopeless romantic and like love always finds a way. And I love that he like let you recover on your own without him and then allowed you to come back to him. Like that is so cool. And I wholeheartedly believe that like you can't do that kind of like hardcore work when you're in a relationship. Like, yes, you can do some of it, but I just think in order for you to like fully invest in yourself, you can't have outward, like I hate to call it distractions, but like you can't have those distractions. And I think that's really big of him to like allow you to do that, because I think a lot of people in a relationship would be like, well, I don't want to lose you, so I'm just gonna
one or the other.
Yeah. So I just think that speaks a lot as to like who he is as a person and like your foundation of your relationship and then your marriage. So that's just like, that made my heart all warm and fuzzy. Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna make him listen to this.
Yes, I've never been to a wedding, and so like when I hear about weddings and I hear about relationships, I'm like, oh yes, love it, love everything about it. And then lastly, before I ask you our final question, please tell people where they can find you. Like, you have a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Like, let's talk about that.
Old thing. Okay. Well, I guess my Instagram account is like my main thing for like more eating disorder support and where I post most, which is instagram.com/feeding.freedom. And then for the podcast, you can find that via the link in my bio. And that streams on Spotify, Apple Music, and SoundCloud, I believe. But pretty much my podcast, it's called the Feeding Freedom Podcast, and it's pretty much just me talking about my struggles and also kind of addressing questions that a lot of people have asked me through like DMs about recovery. And so I felt like it's a lot easier for me to direct them to the podcast where I can say a lot more things than to just type it in like on Instagram. So yeah, Feeding Freedom Podcast.
Perfect. I'm so excited. I did not know that was a thing. I'm going to listen right after.
Oh, no.
I'm excited.
Okay.
And then lastly, I like to end all of my interviews with, do you have any last little bits of food for thought for our listeners before I let you go?
Yes, I love that, by the way. Food for
Thank
thought.
you.
That's just so cute. Okay. It's nothing really crazy. I don't have like a really big quote, but I just wanted to reassure anybody who's listening to this that full recovery is absolutely possible. Like so many people come to me and they're like, I want to recover. I want to be as strong as you, but I just can't. And I'm just like, why can't you? Like, why do you believe that you can't do that? And I just want other people to know that they can do it. Like, they're not a lost cause. Like, it's not something rare. It's not for just certain people to recover. Like, you can do it if I can do it, like as cheesy as that sounds. And I feel like it just starts with a single action, just taking that leap of faith. And another big quote, to feel the fear and do it anyways, which was just pretty much how I got through recovery. It was really not easy. Like, even just sitting here thinking about it, like it's so far away, but at the same time, I remember how scary it was, like the uncertainty and just not knowing how people are going to treat you and what this means for just everything in your life. But at the same time, your eating disorder there's just no way you can go back to that. Like, it's either that or you recover. And so at that point, you just have to be brave and make that decision to start just wherever that may be. And for me, it was deleting my calorie counting app, which I religiously used. Oh my gosh, that thing was like the worst. Yeah, that was like my big sense of control that I kept with me for so long in my eating disorder. And so one day my sister told me that I should delete it for good. And I was like, are you kidding? But I just did it. And every time I told her that, I felt like I'm able to download it again. Like, I'm like safe to do so. She would always like remind me that that's just going to trigger me down. So there was accountability there as well, which is so important. But the main thing is to just take that step. And even if you're scared, just take it from people like me and you who have gone through the process and know that, the grass is greener on the other side, and you can recover.
Yay. Oh my gosh. Everything that you said is so just resonated so deeply in my heart. I'm so happy that you agreed to be on Food for Thought. This has been so fun. You are such a light. And talking about your struggles, and especially with anxiety and social anxiety as well. You never know that through these interactions. And that just speaks so much to your growth. And that's really
thank you.
So that's so awesome. All right, everyone. That was episode number 5 with Shanelle. Like I said at the beginning, she is the bomb. She just had so much insight on so many different things that I haven't had the opportunity to talk about on the show yet. So I was really happy to have her on, and everything that she said was just amazing. I am going to be linking all of her social media as well as her own podcast, Feeding Freedom, in the episode bio. So check out all of that because her content is bomb. She's so great. She's such a wonderful eating disorder recovery advocate, and truly getting to talk to her for this episode was amazing. So make sure you guys check her out, give her a follow, give her a like, and start putting her positive content on your feed ASAP. So thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I will see you next week.